Welcome everybody to another fantastic virtual TrekCon 6 panel. I know it's the beginning of it. I'm already saying it's fantastic, but look, we have with us the amazing Liz Kloczkowski, so we know it's going to be amazing. So if you've ever had the chance to hang out with her at STLV, you already know that it's going to be fun because that's what Jenny and I do, and we're like her stalkers.
Always fun.
She always looks up and it's like, oh my gosh, they're here
Oh, these two
again.
again.
You
Yeah.
again.
You realize there's a whole other convention happening.
Welcome anytime.
Yeah. So Liz, thank you so much for meeting with us today. We're so excited to have you here. How are things going on your end? I think you just wrapped up on a show, season 2 of Ted.
Yeah, Ted finished last week, so I'm looking for my next job. You want to tell anybody who's hiring,
Exactly.
And it's funny how fast it goes. Like I jumped on Ted in July, and so
Oh, wow. Yeah.
somehow 6 months or 7 months went by already. Yeah, but it's already over. So
Oh.
yeah, looking for the next thing, but I've got a few things going on right now that I can't talk about that I'm excited about. But
That's awesome.
other than that, like my day job, I don't have.
Gotcha.
I mean, get the personal stuff done.
Okay. Do you ever find that like, okay, so you get a job and while you're on the job, it's like it's busy, right? You've got something constantly going through and then you're like, oh man, but I don't have any time for the stuff that like I want to do like personal project wise or you keep up on stuff. You're like sometimes I would come home from work and I'd be like, okay, the last thing I want to do is clean this place up, right?
Mhm.
Sure.
And so then you're off work and you're like, oh crap, now I don't have work, but I now I have all this time to do all my personal project stuff, but then you don't do it. And then you get a call for a job and you're like, crap, all that time I was going to spend while I was off doing my personal project stuff and now you're like stressed out again by the fact that you have a job and can't do your personal project stuff. I don't know.
So I don't do that because this is my time to get personal stuff done. So I am like I have a schedule structure, but
Oh.
because we've
What is
got
it
like
like?
there's no time to do stuff when you're working. I like this is my
Yeah.
only time to do it. Like even when I started out, like when I first started working in TV, I would work Monday through Friday and then I would bartend Saturday.
Mm.
So Sunday was my day to do all my stuff. So even though like that's your day off and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do nothing, like I was like, oh, I have to grocery shop and do laundry and clean my house and do all of that. So I just got used to like using the time that I had, like even after work, like going to the gym or doing what I needed to do. So
Mhm.
now, and I just had 10 months off, like before Ted and after
Right.
American Primeval, I had like two 5-month stints, which really sucks, like financially really sucks, but
Mhm.
I was able to get a lot of other personal stuff done, and when I say, yeah, I can't really talk about it, but stuff that like I wouldn't have had time to do if I had a day job. So
Mhm.
I've been doing all of that. So even now, like I'm like I try to treat it like what would you do if you had 6 weeks off or 3 weeks
Yeah.
off? What would you get done? And then I
Right.
do that. And then when it goes longer, you're like, well, what would I do if I had 6 more weeks off? And so that's
Awesome.
how I like track my progress. So it's I don't know, it's
So
not
what
easy.
you're saying is you're better organized than the rest of us.
I know.
I'm like, dang, I got to make some changes in my life
I know,
here.
right?
There's
Here's
this
my
thing called a
mindset.
calendar. How
Mhm.
does
Yeah,
that
yeah.
work?
It's when you've been like you get deprived of it when you work in film because there's literally like on Picard I was working like 6 a to 10 p. So I had no
Yeah.
Right.
time to do anything. So
Yeah.
scarcity mindset, you're like, oh, here's free time. What will I do with it?
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
not good at
Yep.
relaxing because I'm used to that like chaos,
Gotcha.
panic. So yeah, I don't like to be too still.
Mhm.
Well, it's funny because yeah, after a production will wrap and you have that suddenly it's like, okay, my schedule is opened up, but you also at the same time feel kind of like it's like, okay, I need just maybe a day or two to just kind of chill from, especially because the end of a production, at least visual effects wise, tends to be a bit chaotic as you're trying to get
Mm.
those last shots in before you're supposed to wrap. But then I'll have times where I'm like, okay, even though I know that like I have to take some personal time here just to kind of recuperate, I feel like I should be doing something because you're just so used to, you're like, okay, who do I need
Right.
to report to? Oh, wait, it's myself. And sometimes I'm not always the best at like supervise
Panic
myself.
of like not having money coming in. So that's why we have a hard time
Mhm.
like relaxing. Because if I said, oh, I have a job in a month, and this is my time off.
Yeah.
Way
Yep.
easier to track that way, but like I feel like I should be doing more to like, put myself out there, or like should I be emailing people for gigs, or like what
Yeah.
can I be doing to make money? So like that there's like a guilt there. Like so just to take
Yeah.
some personal
Mm.
time, it's like hard because like my personal time could be 10 months and I can't do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That was a
Right.
one time. Like
Right.
I can't do that again. Like it was just, it wasn't my choice.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was tough. It's been an interesting, you know, go since
Yeah.
the strikes happened.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's changed. Really, this whole climate's changed.
So
Yeah.
that's something that I've been wondering about
Yes.
actually, and I wanted to ask you about like because it is a challenging time in the industry in a lot of ways. But it's also, we like live in the future. And so putting aside the challenges of what's going on in the industry, like what are the things right now that are like keeping you excited about what you do and how it relates to like what's going on out there? Does that
Yeah, I mean it's hard, and for us, like
Yeah.
it's had such a hard time. Like starting with the strikes, or actually starting with COVID.
Yeah.
So COVID was the first time we had like forced time off, but the studio still wanted to make content. So like I worked most of COVID from home, like set design,
Right.
doing stuff. But the climate really changed, and then we had a 2 year stint where we had to go to work wearing masks, and it not just the masks, but like I was tested 3 days a week, and
Hmm.
the rules we had to follow, and like productions became more expensive because of all these COVID things that we had to do. So the climate really changed then. And a lot of money went to COVID and not to like the sets. So like we were getting
Gotcha.
the same budgets, but now lumber is 6 times more expensive.
Yeah.
And like we had all
Mhm.
like shipping, we couldn't get stuff. So those were the beginning challenges, but the industry was really booming because COVID halted a lot of production. So everyone needed someone to work.
Right.
The for me was like astronomically worse than COVID because there was no work. So
Hmm.
it's not like
Mhm.
the writer's strike. I actually worked through the writer's strike because I was on a show that it was a limited series that already had
Right.
script. But the hearing all of your friends be out of work and like desperately looking for something and they're gonna lose their houses. And then the SAG strike shut me down. And so that was
Yeah.
my first stint. Like that
Right.
was the first like 5 months I had off. And I didn't
Hmm.
go back until the SAG strike ended. But so that no one was working. So we kind of were like, it was like COVID 2.0.
Yeah.
Uh, but then we went back to work only to do reshoots. So I only went back to work for like 9 weeks and then I was off again.
Oh
We
man.
thought pilot season was going to happen in 2024 and it didn't. So that it really changed the whole climate, like the whole
Wow.
industry. So like, yeah, we're excited to work and like desperate to work,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
times were for the film industry were really challenging even before that. And then you add like the election and then the fire
Yeah.
and all of this other stuff. So like these are all things that we're gonna have to weather, but like
Hmm.
my
Mhm.
safety net is gone. Like I've been living on my safety net for like
Oh
you still
geez.
have
Yeah.
like a year of set, you have years saved up to do whatever you want with, buy a
Hmm.
house.
Right.
I had all these goals, but like you have to survive. So
Yeah.
I just like my survival money's gone, but like we're all looking to like desperately do anything. Like
Hmm.
Right.
I don't know. So like what are you excited about? Like I'm excited literally to go to make a mayonnaise commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, and really we're hopeful that because all of this has happened and the industry's changed and they've made
Hmm.
their deals, that they do need
Mhm.
content and that people will bring content back to LA because I mean not to say because of the fires, but if you really do want to help, like shoot your
Yeah.
thing and like put us all back to work so we can
Right.
start. We're
Yeah.
pretty modest people, like
Yeah. Yeah.
our bills.
Right.
Yeah.
I answered your question, but like I'm excited to really to do anything, and that
Yeah.
if the industry does pick back up, like that to me is exciting. It
That's
just hasn't quite happened yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean there's something like I mean that like it sucks in a lot of ways, but it's also just I don't know, there's something about like just, getting that energy of just like anything would be amazing and being excited to like show up there. That's yeah.
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
even
I get that.
I wouldn't normally do a passion project, but like I'm doing one now because I have the time. So I mean, there's the highs and lows on something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna
Hmm.
say it's one of those things. Do you find yourself okay or going like, okay, well now that this area is slower, like how can I put my talents to use, like to maybe generate revenue in a way that I normally wouldn't have done because I've relied upon this area, like getting hired at a studio. Do you find yourself looking at different ways that maybe you yourself can start, like, I don't want to say a business, but like, for example, like Jenny sells paintings that she does. Melissa has artwork by Melissa that she does. Have you thought something along those lines, or just
Yeah, I mean, what sucks is like, I mean, what I do and like the people in my industry, like we're good at making movies. Like we're so good.
Yeah.
It's hard
Yeah.
to, like, well, what else can I do? Like it's hard to be told like, hey, your career might be useless to you and like you might never do it again. What else can you
Totally.
do? So yeah, I mean, I have like applications in like graphic design. I can
Right.
do some like Unreal Engine certified. Like I can do stuff with in video games. You know, like the that
Ah,
for like 3D modeling. I mean, architecture, the applications for like showing like a construction site, what it's going to look like over time, or like rendering for architecture. I mean, I have a lot of
right.
applications. But the bummer is like you end up starting from the ground up with any of those places. So
For
unless I
sure.
that's like, oh, I understand that you can do this. I don't have 10 years experience in architecture. You know, I have it in film.
Right.
So it's been
Yeah.
looked at it like in the 10 months, like I didn't sit and do nothing. We were like, well, how do we, you know, what else?
right.
So there are a lot of applications, but like you really have to do a career pivot and like get some
Yeah.
for you at entry level and put the years in again, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know, like we just want to make films. So it's
Exactly.
if I had to change, like I probably could, like my skill set's applicable to a lot of different areas, but it's right now it's been hard, you know, and it's because it's the industry in general. Like those people are looking for jobs too. You
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
Right.
Well, you talked about working from home during COVID. How did that work? Because, you know, art direction is pretty hands-on. You typically, so how did that?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that I can 3D model. So I had on a show
Nice.
called Love Island, and he runs everybody from home. So we all just share. There's a couple of models that we all work on, and we kind of will work on it in elements that then we'll drop into like a main model. So like four of us will do
Gotcha.
it, but it's 3D modeling and it's more set design. It's not really art direction. Like you have to be out there doing it. So I didn't
Right.
Right.
COVID though, like the minute they gave us masks and the testing and all of that, like I was back boots on the ground doing that stuff. But I had a 1 month period where I was just in my pajamas, like 3D modeling all day.
Yeah.
I would do that again in a heartbeat. So I ended up leaving that job to go work on Picard. So I don't know if they'll.
Oh.
Hi, remember me? Remember, like we liked working
Like a
together.
nice guy, but I did leave him to go to Star Trek. So
I mean, can you? He at that point
Can
he
he-
can't really
yeah.
fault you. You know, it's
I
like.
don't regret it. But yeah, they worked all through the strike, and I'm like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I have a friend who lives in Belfast, and he works for a company, a VFX company that's in Canada, and I mean, he's not had any time off this whole
Yeah.
time, and I'm just like,
Yes.
that's pretty nice, yeah. So
That's like, well, what else? Like, if I could jump into VFX, or if I could jump into video games, or if I could like those people.
Right.
Like, if it's not consistent, like I have to like this is the time I have off. It's like, do you guys have? It's just really project based and if someone's
Yeah.
open up to hiring. So
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
and that's even in my industry too. It's like where like I usually have to leave a show to jump onto another if I really want something. Like it's a little tricky, but you
Yeah.
just make it work. Exciting.
crazy. So okay, so
yeah.
go ahead, Jenny.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. Go ahead.
No. Well, I was just gonna. Dang it. No. So I was gonna say. So you jumped from that job to Picard. So that was like when you saw that opening. Were you a Star Trek fan that you were like, oh my gosh, this is like that opportunity that you had hoped for, or whatever? Or was it just like an opportunity to like work in a position where you got to make certain choices?
I was working on 2 jobs actually, and I had to quit both of them. I was I made a lot of people angry, but no. Normally what you do is if there's a better opportunity or if there's like a room to upgrade or something you really want to do, you just replace yourself. So you find like, and depending on who's working or who's not, like I've got a little network of people
Nice.
So I replaced myself on one show, and then the other one, it hadn't quite started yet, so I had to just back out before we went like full blown. You know, it was like violent Hawaii, like I had all this like fun stuff planned, but it was just the timing. So yeah, I had a friend working on Picard as the set decorator in season 2, and
Nice.
there was like some turnaround, like people were coming in, people were leaving, and he was like, "You guys should like to Dave, you should hire Liz." And I think it took 3 times to like get my resume like looked at.
Oh.
So we
Wow.
dealt by a lot of like more experienced people, and then eventually
Mhm.
they took me in as they brought me in as an assistant art director for like 2 episodes, and then
Mhm.
the art director had left, and so I just took his job. So it ended up being like for me like fortuitous and like feels like it meant to be. But
Absolutely.
Yeah.
make a lot of changes to make it happen.
So, where did I have this? I have this in my head. I have a specific question about this. Yeah. Okay. So, like, so you were a Star Trek fan,
Oh yeah.
and yeah. So going into set design, like going to school, did you have those kind of genres in your head as like this is where I want to go, or was it more of a general like I want to do everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to like be more of a sci-fi fan in general. Sci-fi and like historical dramas were like my big thing.
Yeah.
Even just watching, like, yeah, I would love to work on that. And then once you work on it, like you've seen how the sausage is made, and now it's
Yeah.
like I still like my favorite shows. Like once you get in there, you see like even like one of my early shows. So I had been watching like binge watching How to Get Away with Murder, like when I was
Ooh, yeah.
like 2018, and then they called me to work on the show like the same day. I had it on my computer. I was like, I don't know, cleaning or doing something, and then the coordinator was like, "Hey, we're hiring for How to Get Away with Murder. Can you come in right now to interview?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" You know. So I like toured me on the sets, and it was like, "Wow, this is awesome." So I mean, the same thing with Star Trek. Like, I was a big fan of Next Gen. I mean, Deep Space Nine. Like, I had my roots anyways, but then like Picard was the Star Trek shooting in LA.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you know, and I wasn't quite caught up with even in season 1. So they had given me season 2 scripts. So I watched all of Next Gen over COVID, like to refresh all of Deep Space Nine, and then I had to stop that to watch Picard season 1, and then they gave me the scripts for season 2, and then I was working. So then all of that in like real time, like you're there.
Man.
Wow.
That's
That's
great.
so awesome. So what is your favorite Star Trek? This is an obligatory question.
Yeah, I think Next Gen for me is like that was like my like formative years. So I'll have to say Next Gen, you know, in general. But like Deep Space Nine is a close second, you know, because you watch. I ended up watching everything like it's sequential over COVID, like to refresh. So I haven't. I'm not one of the people that watches it every day, like to go to sleep. Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
Scott,
I
man,
mean, who does that, right?
Yeah.
all of you guys. No, but I had done it for research, and then and you're a fan, and then like someone will mention an episode, and I'm like, oh, have I seen that? So I'll put it on, you know, just to before I meet with Star Trek people. A lot of times I'll be like, oh, let's watch more, like or the Shatner event. Like I watched original series. I
Right.
didn't love original series, but I was going to like Shatner weekend, and I was like, oh, I should probably catch up on this, and so I ended up watching all of that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, Next Gen for sure.
Yeah. So when you were working on doing the design for the Elios and all of that like deep dive Dr. Crusher stuff, like was that you, or was that
Yeah.
so
yeah,
you were the one like doing all that sort of research and
Yeah, so they hired me in season 2, and then they upgraded me to it was like to upgrade to art director, but then I had to start prepping season 3 because season 3 had a lot of work to do.
right.
So the last like 2 episodes of season 2, I was technically already working on season 3, but the first set that they gave me were the sick bay and the Elios. And I don't know it done that because they were both kind of Beverly Crusher sets.
Yeah.
But we didn't have all the scripts. We had like season 3, episode 1. Dave was like, "Hey, you're gonna work on Beverly Crusher's ship, and this is gonna be your chance to impress me because I was an upgrade, meaning like I was the person with the least amount of experience that was being given a chance.
Gotcha.
Like sink or swim. They're giving me Helios, but then the other challenge was you have to convert an existing set into the Ilios, and I'm like, all right, well, what set do we have to do that? Like, is it a ship? And it was like the basement in Soon's lab. Like it wasn't.
Crazy.
So you take that and then start making plans to use the walls and use like stuff there. So we had Jörg Hillebrand
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys know Jörg from Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like analyzes Trek. So we
He's a
already
legend.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. started using him to like pull Easter egg reference for us. And
Nice.
he'd already signed an NDA, and so I could just email Jörg and say, "Hey, can you give me anything interesting related to Beverly Crusher?"
Oh, that's awesome.
He can give us a list, but like we wouldn't tell him what it was for. So, and then from that list, we would say, "Oh, what can we work in, like Easter wise or that?" But like I was more wrangling, like I think it was like 3 illustrators and 2 set designers, and like anyone that was available would like, be working on how to make this cohesive, and like panic because it's a square set and like most bridges are circular. So we're trying to like then it's wrangling John Eaves because he's designing the exterior of the ship, and we've got to make sure that those.
Nice.
So there, I mean, there was a lot of elements like put into that, but that was my first, like the first set that I had like on my own to like work on, and then the sick bay. Technically, they were prepping at the same time, but I had started pulling reference for sick bay next, and so then they both shot like in the same like 2 week period, and they were both like flaming successes. Like everybody loved them.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we didn't know that fans would like him until 2 years later. So like there was still
that's so crazy.
It
Are you
is
guys
so
gonna like it?
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember Dave saying that, like it was like because it was shot back to back, and it was like, then you start seeing the feedback for season 2, and it's kind of like it's a little rough, wasn't quite as well received, and did you find like you were just like, oh, just wait till season 3, like give it a chance?
It's also hard because you shoot something, and then I had gone from season 3 Picard. I went to Atlanta and I did the show Kindred. So I've been traveling. Kindred was like a season 1, and it didn't get picked up past that. And then I went to Quantum Leap. So I had flown back from Atlanta and moved my flight back to Universal Studios. I'm shooting Quantum Leap, and then I ended up leaving Quantum Leap to go to American Primeval, which was in New Mexico. So I was actually in New Mexico when season 3 dropped, but like,
oh, crazy.
You get busy and you forget that you did that stuff. So we had panicked, like I don't want them to shoot something that looks bad, but versus when we worked on How to Get Away with Murder, like the episodes were airing as we were shooting later episodes,
right?
So had, like real-time feedback, but
yeah,
that have a lot of VFX. Like even the New Mexico show I did just came out, and that was almost a year and a half after we had wrapped.
Right.
So, thing, it's like you wait till. And I'm talking about stuff I did ages ago. It's not like
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it was a long wait for the payoff. But then when people were blowing up about it, I was like, well, I'm glad. But
yeah.
Well, that was a fun 10 weeks. That was seriously so much fun. Like,
oh yeah.
I don't know about Jenny and Melissa, but like I would stay up and watch the episode when it dropped at midnight.
Oh yes.
Knowing full well that I had to be up at 5 a.m. to take my kids to school. I'm like, I don't even freaking care. I could not. I was like, no, I'll be responsible. I'll wait till the morning. But no, I mean, it was so exciting, and it's just really cool to see everybody online just be so excited about what they were seeing and the questions, and they'll be like, oh yeah, well what about, and then the next episode to answer every single question that they had.
Time on a show, like I went to the comments of like, and like there were like reaction videos, like I was watching people's reaction videos because it's like I was there, that I couldn't because I was working, like I was shooting, so I until like Friday after work was when I could watch it, so I literally had to stay off the internet.
Oh God, yeah.
I had no cell service anyways, and it was, but by the time I got to it, like the reaction videos were already uploaded, and like comments, 400 comments on something. So that was my first time like going to the comment section and like looking for, what do they think?
That's always dangerous. That's always a dangerous.
I don't because like everyone's got their own opinion. But.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yes.
Right.
So going from a show like, doing Quantum Leap, Picard, American Primeval, like these are really different things, right? So what, like like if you're going in fresh to a show like that, are you basically doing the same thing? Are you approaching it in the same way, or is it like depending on the genre, is it a different kind of process?
No, it's the same process, which is you start with research, you
Mm.
start with the script, and you see what do the scripts need, and then you go into like deep dive research. So whether I'm researching Star Trek, which you have to research it because there are like 60 years of history behind it. Like the
Yeah.
transporters look like they look, and the doorways
Yeah.
have a vibe. So, and then the story and the characters and all that. So there's plenty of research to do there. But like Primeval, I had to do like, and it wasn't just me. We had like a paid researcher that was there, like
Oh,
she
cool.
would like make these reports for us and then we would all read it. So like
Mhm.
1857, like you become an expert, but for anything, like you become an expert in whatever
Yeah.
genre.
Right.
It could be fantasy, it could be like the time period stuff, you have to get accurate. And you end up
Mhm.
more like we had a lot of Native American consultants that were there because you can Google stuff, but
Yeah.
Right.
the consultants like they were better at answering like pointed questions or like we've
Mhm.
got like
Mhm.
TP for this, and we had like three different types of native peoples in that show. So like white person, like I can somebody
Yeah.
help me with this. But that was like Yerk was like our researcher for Picard.
Right.
So you still
Yeah.
have consultants and you pull reference together and the designer says, hey, I like these references, and then you make
Mhm.
presentations and you pitch that to the director, and the director says, I like this, I don't like this, you revise it, and then we kind of like hone in what it's going to look like. And then the
Gotcha.
second time we'll start doing the drafting, but and like the 3D modeling and the all of that stuff. But like it's the same process either way. It just depends on like the heavier the art, so the heavier the sci-fi or like the heavy period pieces,
Mm.
the art departments. And then like when you work on TED, like we could be a little smaller because there's less research to do. But it's still
Right.
but it's not as like involved.
Yeah, because you're just sourcing
Yeah, but even
now.
like Ted
Yeah.
was a sitcom, and they still had two art directors because
Yeah.
it ended up getting really big,
Yeah.
and that's I can't talk about that stuff either. But there was some theme that they had me doing, and it's the same thing. Like I'm in there because it's a specialty topic, and I'm here to make it look, you know, put in
Right.
all that extra effort. So
Ah, that's awesome.
whatever the theme
That
is.
is awesome.
Yeah,
Very cool.
the all the pictures and the videos you were showing from American Primeval are like
So
it's
Yeah.
cool.
insane.
Yes. So
Like,
cool.
Honestly, that was probably a lot harder than in the Star Trek stuff. I mean, the Star Trek was hard in its own way, but like
yeah.
try
Mhm.
doing all of that, but like on top of a mountain in like freezing sleet
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff. I'm really proud of that stuff because it was really, really hard to do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wind would blow our tents apart,
Oh
and then
God.
when you burn stuff, you have to make it out of fiberglass and plaster and metal. So anything that
Oh,
like we had to duplicate and faux paint it to look like wood, but it's really metal. Like there's a lot.
crazy.
Oh.
It was probably the hardest job I've ever worked. I'm probably more proud of the Primeval stuff.
Yeah.
Work that
Yeah.
Primeval was like a tenth of the budget that the bridge was on Picard, but
Oh my
like
God.
it's months and months and months of work still. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
super
Do you find okay, well, yeah, to that extent, do you find like when you have maybe not the as much budget or do you find that like really engages your creativity to like how can I make this
Mm.
look as good as I can within what these confines?
yeah, it's like thinking outside the box. And yeah, I don't think it's you're more creative. I think it's more of like a problem solving kind of thing. So
Mm.
like
Right.
creative solutions, but it's funny, I went to years ago, like the Thor Ragnarok had a screening, right? And Taika
Mhm.
Waititi was
Yeah.
there, and I was like, okay, let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
He started as an indie director, right? And like that's kind of where I come from too, is I came from like low budget indie stuff, and I've only in the last like 2 years have I started working on like anything
Hmm.
worth $1 million, like that's new. But for Ragnarok was his first movie, same thing where it was like $100 million Marvel budget.
Hmm.
And
Right.
the movie went really like everyone loved it, but someone got up and asked him a question, and they were like, "Because you come from low budget, is it harder to do the big budget stuff? Like as a
Hmm.
director, like now you have all this big budget stuff. Like, is it harder for you to direct?" And he looked
Hmm.
like because of the stakes and like you have all this crazy effects and all this creative stuff. And he looked at the guy and he was like, "No." money to do whatever I want. So, so like I do think money restricts you in a way. So, like my low budget stuff, I could have been more creative if I had like the means to do so. So I do think money still plays in it, but you do get creative to try to make it shoot, you want to shoot in the budget. And that's what Tyke had said. He was like, I spend more time trying to make stuff fit in a budget than like coming up with this is what it should look like.
Yeah.
So, and it's hate to be like money, and not you can be creative with less money, and like doesn't have to be like like Lord of the Rings just spent $1 billion and it's like an okay show, like
Right.
like the most amount of money. So you could still mess it up, but I think that there's a line of happiness where like we say, hey, here's what you want, here's what it's going to cost, and then they say yes, like versus pennies and like cutting corners. Like I cut corners like making a neon one time, and it like watching it on camera, I was like, I should have just spent the money and spent it right. So you have to toe a line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in doing, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yours might be more connected. Mine's kind of off of a left field question. So go ahead.
Just an extension of that money question. I was curious the difference, working on the bridge, where Terry was like, this is where we're putting the money versus, you've got the Ilios, you've got sickbay, but you also, so much of the budget has been like pushed elsewhere. Did you run up against those kind of issues, or was it, did you have some room, or there's some like sort of budgeting you had to do in terms of?
Yeah, and it's funny because I just worked with the guys that do the Orville, and I just went through all their like, because I'm hoping like if they do another Orville, like that I'd be able to work on that. But I went through all their drawings, and I was so jealous because I was like, oh, you guys got an engineering, and you got a shuttle bay, and you built the shuttle, and like the stuff like that show was almost treated more like Star Trek like than Picard. I thought about why, and it was it's many factors, but part of it was COVID, and shooting over COVID, like a whole chunk of money just went to that, and then they passed back, and like money goes to that. The bridge was another, like they had built the bridge over COVID, so same thing. It was like the budget was bloated because they needed more people at work, and then people had to be laid off COVID, and like the materials went up super high. So we're like, how was this set so expensive? So a lot of the money went into the bridge. A lot of it went to the Alien City District 6. A sick bay, actually, like they had approved the sick bay budget because it was an earlier set. But then if you notice, like the nacelle room is like half the size of the sick bay, and that's because the money we had spent it pretty early on, and then episodes go over budget, but the sci-fis, when they go over budget, they go like crazy over budget, and the Orville guys went over budget. Like everyone goes over budget.
Sure.
But that, like towards the end, like we ended up shooting a lot. Like for me, like to my dismay, like the nacelle room, like we would have liked to open the nacelle doors and have seen the nacelle, and there was just like, no, close the doors. This multi-purpose room that we built ended up being like so small. It was like a closet, and it was the room, and it was we just didn't have. Like you want to have more money. Like the Shrike, we could have totally built that on its own. But the La Sirena, and like reusing stuff to save money is one thing, but like even the crew quarters, like I was like probably the most disappointed that we had this idea to do like a captain's quarters as a big quarters, and then each person a smaller and smaller version, like they did in Next Gen. They didn't want to. There wasn't the money to do the big quarters, so captain's quarters did his like little bedroom. But like every single crew quarters is that tiny little room. Like there was like I would like to do more, but I'm not in charge. So, like I'm not anybody. But yeah, we were up against money like the whole time.
Yeah.
We look at like a set we design, and they'd be like, so that's $2.3 million. And it's like I've done stuff for like $100,000.
Yeah.
So like, how is that expensive? But it was the time that we had done it, and like that's why all of the other stuff shoots in Canada. It's because it's a lot cheaper to make stuff, and they're able to do the really sexy, cool, all of that stuff. Like I'd love to. But yeah, we're up against a lot of that budgety stuff. But then to go back to your Enterprise D thing, they would never spend money on a set that's the last episode, like the finale episode. Like by that point,
Right.
get it done. The show's canceled. So that's
Right.
when Terry talked about we put the money into that set. There wouldn't have been money if he didn't say, hey, this is important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't as expensive as some of the other like bigger sets, but they gave us the money we needed to do it right, and that they had proven that it was important and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that reminds me of like when Next Gen first started. From what I remember, they originally were not planning on having engineering in there, but then Gene knew that if he didn't write that then at the beginning when the budget was a little bit more generous, then it would have been more difficult later on to get the set that they wanted, just because
Interesting.
the budgets. And Liz, maybe you can speak to this, that you found like the longer you're on a show, the idea is that you spend all your money up front, and then with each subsequent season your budget gets smaller and smaller because you have more established stuff to work from. And so when you propose a big set, like in this case the Enterprise D bridge, you really have to justify it to the people who are controlling the spending and stuff like that, because the tendency is to not be like, do we really need it, or can you do it for less? So
Yeah. But yeah, and it's funny too, because sometimes like if they say, hey, the finale is gonna have this big thing, like sometimes the budget goes up, especially if the show gets viewers, and like if you look at Game of Thrones, like every season got
Right.
bigger. So like there's that, because they can justify the viewership, or like it's all about, yeah, like you said, it's justification. So we in TV, the way we budget is they give us what they call an amort budget, which is like the pot for sets that are gonna be in every episode. So those can be bigger budget because they play every episode. So it's amortized over the whole show. So the amort budget. And then you'll get an episodic budget, which will be new sets per episode. And so, but that is the same number for every episode. So whether they write, that's why like the writers,
Right.
you guys. So they'll write stuff, but like I have the same amount of money. And
Right.
what we'll do is if they give us 2 episodes at once, and one episode has like no new sets and one has a lot of new sets, if it averages, the producers will say, okay, that's fine.
Right.
So it's like we just have this like, it's called a pattern. So as long as you're on pattern, like they'll approve your budget.
Gotcha.
But the amort stuff, so like the bridge for us was like the big, like big millions, but that bridge is in every episode, so they're fine with it. But it's you can blow your amort budget, you can blow your episodic budget, like there's all kinds of ways. Like, and Herman in season 1 of Next Gen, Herman had like a clerical error. Like somebody messed up the books, and so there was $100,000 like fuck up that Herman was like trying to fix. So he basically, in all these sets they were building, he had to take money out of each set to cover up the thing, because that's how you get fired, is by like
Wow.
they don't put me on that. It was like, because I had read it in, I think I read it in Star Trek 365. He was covering for that, and then by the end they had like almost zeroed it out, and so the only one that appreciated it was the accountant, but already working with less, and so his engineering, they ended up using engineering for the movie, and but they still like on the pilot they still drew like those engineering like coil things, like all the details they had, like they still did a bunch of stuff for it, because fans were going to expect an engineering. Like I didn't in Picard, so I'm still bitter.
I know. Well, now you say that, we never did see the engineering section of the Titan.
No, it was all like closets, like the environmental room, the EC chamber, the cell. They were all like little rooms where you fix stuff. It was all the same room,
Okay, I don't know if you can say, but was engineering ever something that was discussed? Any preliminary designs or anything, or was it just like, we know we're not getting it because it's not in the script, so we're not?
I don't remember reading it in the script, and if that would have been something that like Terry would talk to Dave about, hey, what do you think about, like, we're writing this episode, what do you think about doing this? I don't, the transporter room was the big, I remember them, like, they knew that was going to be a thing, so Dave was designing that earlier than having scripts. So we would know, like, Enterprise D, we didn't have the script, but we knew it was coming back. But we didn't know in what capacity or like how much of it we were building. So we operate blind like a lot.
Mhm.
But engineering wise, in the scripts I read, I never there was the nacelle room I think was the closest to them like trying to fix something, you
Mhm.
know. But the show is more of a drama and it's not like the 26 episodic
Right.
Yeah.
where you have an episode in engineering and you follow
Exactly.
like this wasn't that. You know, this was more
Mhm.
like an 8 hour movie.
Right. Which fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no joke. There was one time that I knew that I was going to be up all night long working on something because we had
Mhm.
a deadline the next morning, and I threw on season 3 of Picard, and
Right.
sad to say that I finished it as I was up long enough that I watched all 10
Yeah.
episodes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I almost can't watch it again because it's like I'm like looking at stuff or
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I lived it. It's in my past.
I
You know?
totally understand that.
I was gonna
Mhm.
that's a question. Yeah, do you find like after you've worked on a show, do you find that like you can go back and watch stuff, or do you feel like no, I lived it and I'm okay not watching it, or can you do that like after time has passed and you can go back and maybe look at it again?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we always watch it right when it comes out. Like I'll watch
Right.
my because I want to see like how much got seen. You know,
Mhm.
Hmm.
it's dailies too. So like when like I see the monitor. Like Picard, I had a feed, so I had seen a lot of it.
Mhm.
But seeing how they edited it and like what made it to the final cut. Like on American Primeval, there were whole sets I had done that didn't even make it in, and so you're
Oh
like,
God, yeah.
Oh.
Mhm.
um, like, and when the show comes out weekly, like I'll watch it weekly. But like the binge watch, like I just watched American Primeval because people were asking me about it.
Right.
But it was almost hard, because I'm like, oh, I
Mhm.
want that. Oh, like it brings back like it's like you get to watch a show of your memories, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
but then it's also
Yeah.
seeing kind of how the storytelling. Like I actually followed it, and I was like, oh, what happens next?
Mhm.
Knowing what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But like Quantum Leap, I didn't watch.
Yeah.
These are memories I could have put in the past. So it just
Yeah.
depends on what they're
Oh.
doing.
So the memory of the carpet on the Enterprise D, is that something you hold on to?
I do hold on to it. Yeah.
And rightly so.
Thinking about it.
Rightly so.
Thank you guys for wearing your t-shirts.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for
Uh,
making them.
Forget which direction I need to pull this in.
I still
Yeah.
have a couple more. I'm trying to get rid. I've been driving around with them in my
Ooh.
car. So
Oh, really?
What sizes?
I have
Yeah.
three smalls and two extra larges.
Ooh.
Oh, so
Anyone's-
All right.
you ended up selling the 2XLs?
Oh, I'm sorry. They're two extra large. Two
Gotcha.
X's, I guess.
2XLs. Okay, cool.
The larges are sold out. It's like three smalls left. So I almost got the whole. I was hoping that they would go faster, but I've just been driving around. I'm trying to clean my car out.
Uh-huh.
Well, when
All right,
we
noted.
talked to Dave, we said like we were going to make this t-shirt that said the unofficial Star Trek art department team, right? Or
Fan club.
fan
Fan
club.
club.
Yeah.
I
And,
would wear one.
and Dave said, no, I think that's Liz's. Please stay off the carpet.
Yeah, right.
Give me the
Yeah.
carpet
This
shirt.
is that shirt. Yeah, exactly.
Swag is hard because then you just have like whatever you didn't sell. Like I have
Right.
posters and stuff too. Like I've got piles of stuff now that like cost money to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know.
Yeah. We do,
Yeah,
definitely.
We do know.
Yeah. And if someone is looking for any of that stuff, where can they find it?
It's expensive, right? Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
cool.
I have a lot of prints still. Like anything I was selling at Vegas,
Yeah.
I didn't sell out of anything. So like the black and white thing of the behind the scenes of the bridge.
Mhm.
We've got some like original art of like the Enterprise D. She's a beautiful lady, and we love
Yes.
her.
I've got your magnets on my fridge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Aw.
Dude, I've got like I have to bring magnets to Vegas next year because I
Yeah.
have like thousands of them.
Yeah.
A pile. What else do I have? Yeah, like the me on the bridge. I mean, I have prints. Like if anyone wants a print, like let me know.
Mhm.
We'll
Awesome.
make sure. Yeah, we'll make sure to put some links for people in the
Mhm.
description below
Mhm.
so that they can go and check
Yeah,
out and see
But
what
they
you
can
have
like
available.
DM me. Like I answer all of them usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Twitter,
And if
emails.
folks are interested in your like the other work you've done. Your website is fantastic. Like you've got such a great
is.
portfolio.
Yeah.
Like it's really awesome.
Oh yeah,
I
it
could
worked hard though, and then sometimes at the end of the year I'll be like, what did I do this year? Like I
I
did
know.
that, and then like, do the portfolio, and then I do like a photo album for the year, because then I like to look at everything I did.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like unrealistic expectations, like because I had time off and the money's not good, but like I still did all that stuff. And
Yeah.
like and all of that stuff. So like, yeah, you have to give yourself a little pat.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you ever look at that stuff and go, dang, how did we do that? Like how, like, because when you're in the moment, you don't really think about it, right? Because it's just one of those things that you're just, okay, this is the task that has to be done. Do you ever like look back at some of that stuff and you're like, oh man, that was actually really good?
Yeah, I actually look back and I wish I enjoyed more of the moments. I'll be grumpy and I'll be just like slogging through the work, and I work really hard, and then you get burnt out. But it's why the 2 out of town shows I did. So when I was in Atlanta, I was like, I hate Atlanta. And then like, I would absolutely go back. I had a blast. Like I'm grumpy when I'm there. And Primeval was tough. I mean, it'd be snowing, and I'm like, man, I miss LA. But then I just messaged my team. There were 5 art directors. Wow. 5 art directors and a supervising art director and a designer.
So oh my God.
Just the art. That wasn't set designers and illustrators and all that. But I was like, guys, I miss you. Let's go back. And I was a grump the whole time. They're like, I'm rotting in the dark. Like I need to be alone, because so I'm trying to like enjoy the moments more. Like I had like it literally was the once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah.
Being out there, and when we went back for the reshoots, we did have more fun. We were definitely run a little into the ground, run ragged the first time, but going out to eat in the new cities that you're in, and like exploring and doing, but it's hard to do that after a 14-hour day, So
for sure.
Like I don't want to be like old and like feel like I didn't enjoy my life,
Yeah.
So if you had like, money constraints aside, the industry aside, like what would your dream project be right now? Like what kind of thing would you love to be able to do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I still want to go to Europe and make stuff over there. Not that I can take money away from LA, because like I'm an LA local, but just for me, like a travel job, like in Europe, like Budapest or Bulgaria or England or any of those places, for me, just to be adventuring. But so it's a little contradictory to like bring the work back to LA.
But help me explore the world.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, Lord of the Rings was like my big, like the extended edition, like behind the scenes was like,
oh my God,
do this. Like, I wanted to go to New Zealand and work for Weta Workshop, and like I've never been to New Zealand, on those jobs. But that for me, like a travel job, something with rich visuals, like the Game of Thrones, that was like ideal for me because it's creative, it's historical, it's gritty. They had a hard time doing that stuff too. Many countries, like those types of jobs, like for me, like plus with the hype, like everyone's watching it, super popular show. The design's nominated every year because it's amazing. Those types of stuff you can get or like and live an adventurous life. It's my Outlander. I missed the whole Outlander boat.
Oh my God, right.
Oh yeah.
Because they do the same stuff. It's all the same. You research it and builds.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's awesome. That's a great answer. I love that.
You mentioned watching Lord of the Rings, and that kind of brings me to my question that was kind of off topic. But what got you into art direction? And do you have some heroes that you kind of looked up to?
Yes.
Like you mentioned meeting Taika Waititi, and is he one of those heroes, or is it other people?
Yeah. So I'll date myself because talking about like stuff that got me inspired to work in film, it was the Lord of the Rings extended edition, and it was Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yay.
So good.
I was like 12 when they came out, but like it was the coolest thing because there was like the behind the scenes, and there was like a jib camera arm and explosions and cannons and stuntmen and all this like and they're in the Caribbean shooting this stuff, and so I'm like, oh, like how do I film? So those are the two for me pretty formative. And you can see they're both like fantasy or big budget, and like the travel gigs, like that's so those had gotten me in. Star Wars was another big one. Next Gen was a big one. It's funny, original movies, I only had the Search for Spock. So I had never seen that, I hadn't seen them in order. I just had like Search for Spock on VHS.
Amazing.
That way, like
that
as a kid, you're like, what? Why are we looking for him? But that was kind of to get me in, like the making movies. And it's funny because I'm just getting into TV more. TV actually is, you can have more of a life in TV. It's
right.
They're used to the Monday through Friday, so like I would like doing more movies, but TV is still fine. But yeah, Taika was I'm a fan of his. Director wise, like at Robert Eggers, he's doing all like the hyped up, like you almost don't want to work for him because it's so hard. He makes it so hard, like like the research, and it's like the crew, like hearing the horror stories of like what he puts the crew through to get it perfect, but like they're making like masterpiece paintings.
Right. Right.
Like anything with Denis Villeneuve, like obviously, because that's like even like I have all their art books from Dune, but like Patrice Vermette and Denis, like they work together. Like so, I would be working for Patrice, the designer,
right?
But what they just coming up with a culture that's like 10,000 years of like and like multiple planets and like all of like there's just such an amazing job. But and then like the classic people like Rick Carter, Jack Fisk, like people that have done like a lot of movies that I've like liked growing up, and they like collaborate with the big like all the big directors like Spielberg, Malick, and like anything that like oh yeah, you know what I mean, like it's Terrence Malick, like you want to work on a project with him? Yeah, absolutely. Like you don't have to ask me twice. And then Uli Hanich is another designer that I'd like to work with. He's German. He did Queen's Gambit. Perfume, and then doing Babylon Berlin, which is like probably my favorite TV show ever.
Right.
But when I was in Germany, I was like, "Can you guys introduce me to Uli? Like, I want to work for him."
Yeah.
It's like, do I speak the potato language, which is just Liz speak German? And she, in German, I had to have my friend translate. They shoot in Berlin, like our departments, they're all German. Like,
native. Yeah.
So I'd have to catch him on an American production if he needs somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, you mentioned someone. I was just at some award show, and I'm like, oh yeah, that person, he did this and this and this. And my friend was like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
Always down to collaborate, especially wanting to be creative and wanting to do make amazing stuff. Like that's what I'm not looking for jaded. I'm looking for excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hopefully that's perfect. Your question.
Yeah, it does.
Well, it's one of those things where you like, do you ever stop for a moment and think, man, if like 10-year-old me could look at where I'm at now,
right?
Like, would you have expected to be where you're at today and have worked on some of the stuff that you've worked on, or was that like, oh, this is actually just really cool?
It's an exercise people do where like you sit down with like younger you, like even 15 you, and like what did they order for their drink and what did you order, and like compare, and then they ask you questions and then you tell them. It's like a fun kind of like I would cry every time, like what that kid was. But it's funny when I was 12, my mom had gotten pregnant again, and we were like so many siblings. There's 5 of us, but the age gap with my younger sisters, I mean, it's 12. Like people have bigger age gaps, but we were like, oh, when she's 18, like Liz is going to be 30.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically because we had said that like we were sitting on like a swing set or something, but they're like, what will you be doing when you're 30? And I was like, oh, I think I'll be married with like 3 kids and like, my mom, whatever my mom did. And now I'm like 33, but not married, no kids, but like I'm so much, but is it what young people expected? Like, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not. Definitely, I'm proud of what I've done though. So it's, like I said, you get hard on yourself and you're like I should be further along. Even when I
Right.
turned,
Of course.
I still had roommates and I was like, what am I doing? And like I had just gotten on, I was like 29 turning 30 when Star Trek that was like my big break.
Oh,
So
wow.
that
Yeah.
for me, like that was the first, like, am I working on the projects that I want to be working on? Like, am I just
Right.
low budget, small things? And like, I never worked with Steven Spielberg. Like, it's a dream, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
So there's still those goals, and like, this is what I want to be doing. But
Yeah.
even in the last 3 years, like, I've done so much stuff. So it's fine.
Awesome.
That's
Great.
yeah. It's
Yeah, that's
cool.
so
Life
great.
takes you in
Awesome.
places and directions that you just never thought. You know?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so
It's hard. And then I do like the other thing you can do, like 6 degrees of separation, or like if one thing didn't happen to you,
Yeah.
where you are now, like butterfly
Mhm.
effect or whatever. And even like my first job in LA, that job I met 3 people that turned into this job, that turned into this job. And if I didn't go to the college I went to, I wouldn't have gone to LA when I went, and I wouldn't have done, like
Yeah.
yeah.
it's involved.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
I love that.
can get like unravel your whole life,
Mhm.
very quickly.
Yeah. So cool.
Tapestry, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
To bring it back to Star Trek. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, another
That's
thing, Liz, that I think another thing that I think is really cool that you do that I don't know if a lot of people know is that you cosplay. And there are some freaking, I was like, there's some pictures that you've posted. I'm like, holy crap, like you do
So
not mess
awesome.
around when it comes to
Right.
cosplay. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
dang, she's like full on makeup stuff. And I'm like, do you do that yourself, or do you know people who like can like that are good at that? And you're just like, what's up, suckers? Here I am.
Well, that all started like in high school. Like we would do costumes for like whatever play we were in,
Mhm.
and then
Oh
like
yeah.
in college, you do like your slutty costumes, and like
Yep.
they weren't. I wasn't very proud of like I wanted to do like creative stuff, and then in LA. When you move to LA and you go out for Halloween, like people don't mess around. And so the
Right.
open
Man.
was like, well, I'm gonna go out and see someone on stilts and in a full blown this and all these people. Like I have actually a group of friends that are like all Emmy winning like makeup artists.
Oh, crazy.
So I'm not, they don't do the makeup on me, but I'm like associated with them. And so
Mhm.
like
Right.
just like even I've just done 2 shows with Howard Berger. Howard won an Oscar for Chronicles of Narnia, right? Like
Oh man.
wrote
Yeah.
the book of, like monster effects. Like Howard can't look at my costume and be like, that is bad. Like it has to be good. It's just fun. So it started with like Halloween would get bigger and bigger every year, and then like go to the Comic Cons. And I love a Renaissance fair. Like that is my happy place. So
Oh my
whenever
God.
the Renaissance fair opens, I'm like, who wants to go?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
like,
Me.
my cousin,
Go.
and I was like, will you guys let me dress you? And they were like, yeah. And so I fitted them, and I have like, we did all this like Witcher stuff, and we made sure everyone had all the elements to their costumes so that everything was perfect. But then like this last year at Halloween, I was like, oh, I really want to do like Dr. Zero, would be fun. And nobody helped me. And I was like, Doug Drexler. Doug is another award-winning makeup artist, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Tracy. I was working with Doug at TED, and he's like, what are you going to do for Halloween? And I said, I think I'm doing Planet of the Apes. And he was like, oh, well.
Ooh.
And then they get into like giving you the speech of like, that was the makeup that he did to impress Dick Smith to get hired.
Oh no
And I was
way.
like, so now, and what I do is like a couple months before Halloween or whatever, I'll just order all the stuff and it'll be in a box. And
Right.
so when the day comes, I'm like, oh, I guess I'm doing this. And so my friend's FaceTiming me, hey, when are you going to be ready? And I'm in my bathroom, like gluing like prosthetics to my face. And it's not great, but it's Halloween, it's like enough to be like it's good, it's like over Halloween, but like I'm halfway through like my eighth thing, and I'm like, I ended up sewing this shirt to go with it. I'm not like the cosplayers that like spend all year with
Right.
foam and making it. I'm more of like an assembler. So like a while I'll have someone on Etsy make me something, or I can age stuff. If you can buy some cheap things and age it. Like I have like the art skills, but it's this fun thing, and I wish more people. I need to like hang out with cosplay people because I would do it more,
Yeah.
Like LA Comic Con this year, no one wanted to go, and I was like, I don't care. So I put my little Bam Geralt on and went.
That was
and
amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was amazing.
But yeah, like whatever. And then you're in costume and you make friends, you know.
Totally.
Yeah.
Living in LA, I think it's just like the caliber is just a lot higher. Like a
For
lot of
sure.
people out here doing, like you see the Star Trek conventions, and there's always going to be someone all green or all blue.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. But
Exactly.
it's a hobby, and like I need to get into like then I'm like, oh, am I vacuum forming stuff and am I mold making?
Right.
Doing all this, like
Mhm.
yeah, I'll usually buy a piece, like someone on Etsy will build something for me.
Yeah.
Wear it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. That's something I wish I had time for. That's because I've got a lot of friends who do it and it's just, oh, it's so fun. Yeah.
So
So I
fun.
loved I loved
know.
seeing those pictures, yeah, from Comic-Con and from Halloween that you'd like,
Thanks.
yeah.
But that's really it. It's like when is there an excuse? And like
Yeah.
Renaissance Fair is going to pick up soon, and I'll have something ready for that. So
Nice.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm looking for Renaissance Fair buddies.
I love it. Man, that's awesome. Well, geez, are we like,
Yeah,
I think, yeah, we've
I
basically
think
like,
that's our time, unfortunately.
yeah.
But Liz, thank you again so much. I mean, you're
Yeah.
amazing. And you know
Me
that
the whole
we just-
time. I
we
love
just
talking about
yeah,
it.
we just absolutely love it. You know, and it's always so much fun. You know, it's
Mhm.
like we go to STLV and before you know it, the convention's over, and so it's just like
Yeah.
it's good to have some time to hang out with you again. So, for
Yeah,
everybody else,
my Star Trek convention friends, like my
Yes.
Star Trek summer camp friends, you know?
right?
Ah.
Like no joke, when people would be like, "Well, what are you're going to Vegas?" and they're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna go Gavin?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to Nerd Space Camp, guys."
Exactly.
Nerd space
Exactly.
camp. Woohoo.
And like, and they're like, "Oh my gosh," and I'm like, "Oh no, you don't even know. You don't even
Mhm.
Right.
know until you've been
There's
there.
nothing
You
like
don't
it.
even know."
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
we this we legit have like there's this post-con letdown that it's just like I want to go
Mhm.
back. I want to
Yep.
go back.
I know.
Exactly.
It's like you
Mhm.
stepped out of the closet of Narnia and you're like trying to find
Yeah.
it again.
Yeah.
So, well, okay. So for the rest of you, please be sure to check out Liz's website. Check her out. Check out some of the stuff that she's posting on Twitter and other social media because there's some amazing stuff.
Mhm.
Also, be sure to check the description below for the next video. And if you want the full Virtual TrekCon 6 schedule, visit virtualtrekcon.com. And we'll see you in the next video.